All right. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. We're gonna just do a little pulse for the room. Does anyone remember Heads Up, Seven Up from elementary school? So put your heads down, and I'm just gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4 through 10, and when you like. Just how comfortable are you in kind of like the web3 crypto blockchain space? And just so we can get a sense for the room and see where everyone is. So heads down, no fair peeking. So 1 is like total noob, 10 is like you think you're like super expert. So 1, raise your hand if you're a 1. All right, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wow, so you guys are all 10s. That's incredible. No 10s. No 10s in the room. No 9s or 10s. Felt like a lot of kind of like 5 and under, right? So we'll make sure that we're not like speaking super past everyone and make lot of 8s. A good number of 8s. So we'll make sure that we kind of ease in. But this is the last panel of the day. So we want to just make sure that it's light. Conversation goes quickly. But we're just going to start out, do quick introductions. My name is Trent Mano. One of the co-founders of I put the emphasis on the wrong syllable here. The co-founder of Cryptopia and co-founder and general partner of Utah's newest venture firm, Convoy Ventures. So talk to me afterwards if you got a Web3 startup that you're looking for funding. We've backed both Tyler and Jay's startups, and we are anxiously and excitedly betting on Utah-only startups. So yeah, that's me, and we'll go to Jay.
All right. My name is Jay Marcyes. I am the co-founder of Bodega, bodega.com. We are a convenience store for NFTs. We're basically building tools for creators and collectors. Basically, if you've ever done something with an NFT and thought, man, I wish that was easier, chances are that is on our roadmap, and we will be building a tool to address that.
Well, hi guys, my name's Layne. I'm one of the co-founders of Connext, and we build interoperability technology, so bridges between different chains. Right now, focus mostly on EVM-compatible chains.
Layne is way cooler than the rest of us. Yeah, so I'm Tyler Morrey, co-founder of Upsidedown. We are building a platform for equity tokenization for traditional private companies who are non-crypto, non-Web3, that allows them to distribute ownership to their community in exchange for services. So.
I actually think we have like a really good range of expertise here.
Jay,
so.
I think it feels like you already have a thought or a question.
No, I don't have any thoughts or questions. I'm impressed. I did no research coming into this, so I'm just impressed by their resumes.
Yeah, so as you guys probably saw, the theme or the topic of the room is building the building blocks of Web3. And so really what we're trying to do is that it's not like a specific project, but it's the thing that honestly, if you're trying to do anything in Web3 crypto, it's weird, it's clunky, it's hard to navigate. So that's kind of my first question. Why do you guys think that is? Why is the general Web3 experience to this point, why is it so clunky right now?
Sorry, I jumped on it, but how many people used the internet in the 90s? So I remember I was a big AOL user. In fact, it's I still have a memory of my parents got the phone bill, and it was many hundreds of dollars, and they were like, what the, but I remember I was reading an issue of Wired, at a doctor's office or something like that, and it's Wired magazine had, go try this new thing on the World Wide Web. And it was just go to http://www.chicago.edu/tilde/ and I was like, what? No one's ever going to do that. That is insane. It's just printed right there on the magazine. It took 3 rows of the column. And I was like, that's just nuts. I mean, AOL keywords have this completely. That's the phase of where we're at in like blockchain technology and stuff like that. We might even be a little bit like before that in like the just starting to get the HTTP or just starting to get like TCP connections like working, like some of the fundamental building blocks of the internet. And so the big thing is like that's the reason why, is because it's like there needs to be more people moving into the space, like building tools, making things easier and stuff like that. And it's like we're kind of in that Wired magazine printing the URL that they thought someone would go and like type it all out. We're in that phase of Web3.
Yeah, I would agree, and I would say that in general, like these cycles take a lot longer than you think they will to build all of the infrastructure that is needed to get like. It's incredible what goes into the Web2 experience right now. Like how easy it is to use everything on the internet was really, really difficult to do, and we're still in the like building blocks phase of that in crypto. I also think in crypto you have to deal with this unique issue of self-custody and self-custody of things that could potentially be worth a lot of money, and that like that added layer of you have to be aware of these sorts of things for your security purposes adds a lot of friction that we haven't quite figured out how to deal with yet.
Yeah. Oh, man. I think it's because of gatekeeping. I think we're just trying to keep all the normies out, right? Like, why is it difficult? It's exactly why everybody else said. Like, it's just still early, right? Like, we're building on new primitives, and it just takes time. And also, a lot of it is the amount of talent in the market, which has changed super significantly. Like, my co-founder Samson always cites some stat that I'm going to blow super hard right now, but it's like 56 or something % of all active software developers moved to Web3 in 2021. And I know I saw that. It's a real stat. 56 probably not the right number, but it is something ridiculous. So as you know, that being the example, we are seeing things change a lot, and like I don't know, like how many people were around a year ago to try and get MetaMask working? Like the entire process is significantly easier right now than it was a year ago, right? And that's exactly why, because there is a lot more talent operating here, building. I'm going to credit UX UI designers finally making the switch, because it took a while, but that's a big piece of it.
So I want to hear specifically like you guys' approach to this complication like that. I've talked with obviously Jay and Tyler a little better, but like what are you guys specifically doing with your own startups to make it very simple, whatever process or whatever problem pain point you're trying to solve?
Oh man. So we talk with a lot of NFT creators and a lot. We specifically right now we're focusing on like people that are starting their new or their first collection. We've talked with a lot of like agencies and stuff that help like celebrities and other people like launch NFT projects. So if you've ever seen on Twitter like a celebrity, the conversion rate think the conversion rate's about 0.00000001 of like a celebrity's following. And that's just because it's like if you think it's hard for you that have interest in getting blockchain and like all that kind of stuff, or like doing something on the blockchain, like buying an NFT or something like that, like imagine a follower of Paris Hilton or Taylor Swift like buying something on the Polygon blockchain. And it's like, it's just really hard to convert them over. So when we look at that, it's like, all right, why is it hard to convert them over? Well, it's like a lot of the wallets don't support Polygon. Like up until probably relatively recently, but like getting a Polygon chain on MetaMask it involved like their developer docs and like knowing the URLs and the RPC like calls that you needed to make and like putting the addresses and everything in there. And so Coinbase Wallet makes that a little bit easier because they just natively support it. But it's like Polygon has wrapped Ethereum that has Polygon, it has Matic, it has Ethereum on Polygon, Polygon on Ethereum. And it's like knowing what all those different tokens are and stuff like that is like something that most people don't need to know. And so our goal is just, well, let's take all that and say, like, if we start from, hey, I want to help a celebrity purchase something, or like help a celebrity like help us a fan of a celebrity purchase an NFT. How can we make that easier? So it's like, how can we fade the connection to Polygon in the background? How can we fade the connection to Solana? How can we first get money into their wallets? How can we get them a wallet? And then how can we support more, like higher use cases like a custodial wallet as opposed to a non-custodial wallet, and like all of those kind of things. And so it's like we just basically go back to first principles and say, if I was going to have an ideal flow to help these agencies help their clients make money and do their NFT collections and stuff like that, what would I need? And then we just go and we build those things.
Layne, before you
Okay, sorry.
start, no. Before you start in there, you both now talked about custodial versus
Should I describe that?
Yeah.
Yeah, self. Yes. So a non-custodial wallet is something like Coinbase. That is basically where Coinbase handles the public and private keys. We can get into like public and private key encryption, but basically a wallet is usually two things. It's a private key, and that's usually you hold, and it's a public key which you can share with other people. Those two keys together can encrypt and decrypt any message. And so a custodial wallet is something like, or a non-custodial wallet is something like Coinbase, where Coinbase actually holds the private keys for you, and they like handle all of the signature requests and all of the things that kind of do behind the scenes. It makes it way easier to transact with something on Coinbase and to buy things and to do all that kind of stuff. A non-custodial wallet, I'm getting it wrong. Non-custodial wallet's that. A custodial wallet is where you actually have the key. Am I wrong? I reversed? Geez. See, even I get them wrong. And it's like I would do it here. So just reverse what I said. But it's like you basically hold the private key. And so like MetaMask and Coinbase, and now I'm flustered, so I'm not gonna like which one are they? They're custodial.
MetaMask is non-custodial.
Non-custodial.
Coinbase wallet is also non-custodial. The Coinbase account itself is custodial. So like a really simple way to think of this is like non-custodial, you're on the hook. If you lose that password, sorry about it, like nobody can help you. And then custodial is like, okay, well, Coinbase is on the hook. And usually custodial wallets are where regulators are going to like kind of find their foothold because it's some business that their business is to control your wallets and seed phrase.
And then semi-custodial wallets. Okay, all right. Semi-custodial wallets are just custodial wallets with a different name, honestly. But it's where Coinbase lets you have your private key, but they still keep it too. So it's the same thing. That's all I had to say. I have nothing else to say. Should we do Q&A then?
Let's finish you two with that question of what your startup's doing, and then we'll.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
We passed on Cryptopia, right?
Yeah, so we stopped to define some terms. To reset the context here, the question was, how are you guys thinking about making blockchain more accessible to the everyday user? Yeah. Okay, so we actually have like a kind of interesting story about that at Connext. We started during the last bull run, and we weren't super deep into like how does this stuff actually work. We understood it at like a, let's call it a 6 out of 10, but we definitely weren't deep in the EVM, like how does this work at a protocol level. And our idea was to basically be like Stripe for tokens so that anybody just had to use a credit card. We'd create wallets, we'd like manage it custodially, and it would just be super, super easy to use. And then CryptoKitties happened, which like, I don't know how many of you guys were around when that was going down, but it like broke Ethereum, which like the gas prices that were happening then were laughable to some of the ones that we've seen at this point. But it was just like the event that pretty much crystallized the need for Ethereum and other proof-of-work blockchains to find better scaling solutions. And then so we immediately, like with the same vision of like bringing this to the masses, we're like, okay, we have to focus on infrastructure. So we started with scalability infrastructure, and then A closely related topic to scalability infrastructure is interoperability infrastructure, and how we, which is what we're working on, and how we address the complexity there is by managing the asset fragmentation that was just mentioned about all of the different wrapped assets that you have on Polygon. I think there's probably a different flavor for every bridge, which doesn't make it easy to understand. It's certainly not intuitive.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, at Upsidedown, making things easier. I think this is probably core at this point to just about every crypto project, because like we need users now. We have value and we have scalability. We have everything we didn't have before, and now we just don't have enough people using it. Which, I mean, that's relative because Ethereum still explodes and people pay $5,000 in gas just to get an other side land drop. So yeah, there are some pros and cons, but like for us, and this is probably just a weird question for Upsidedown, because like the way we operate, no one even really needs to know that it's crypto, right? Like censorship resistance is important to what we're doing and to issuing equity at scale. Like you have to allow the community to do that, and if you allow the community to do that, you have to ensure that everything is done in a fair manner. Therefore, decentralization, everything's useful. But like on the other end, we're talking about equities in private companies, right? And that you can't transfer those, you can't sell them. They're not. It's not a public security, right? And so for us, the question is a little different because we can just use different language, right? It's in framing and how we talk about what we're doing, and so I mean, in general, I think there's a few different ways. Like you can improve the actual infrastructure, right? And that's going to make it easier for new users to onboard. You can improve the UI UX experience. That's going to change things. But then also the way that we talk about it is a huge factor. Like we were talking to Micah Tillman, who's was at A16Z, now at Haunt Ventures. And I'm pretty sure wrote speeches for Obama, something like that. Very intelligent guy, and we were talking to him about just word choice. And we learned that crypto as a word polls very poorly with non-crypto users, whereas Web3 polls super well, right? So a lot of it is in how you frame it and how you talk about it.
Can I add something? Absolutely. Just to add something, because what they were both saying is when you start getting into it, it's like, oh, I want to make this thing easier, and then you start realizing it's like, oh, wait, and you just keep going down the rabbit hole because it's like, oh, there's no infrastructure. So you get to, it's like, well, we have to build this out. Like when we first started, it was like, oh, well, in order to look at all the NFTs and to know what all NFTs everyone had, we have to just crawl the blockchain, and there was no other good way to do it. And so it's like pretty soon we're no longer just like building a GUI on top of and making things easier to onboard and stuff like that. We're now building an indexer. And then what he said about, the vocabulary, I'm in this stuff every day, like doing stuff, working with developers, working with people, and I still mix up custodial and non-custodial. So it's like the vocabulary is just awful. There was a blog post like not even a year ago, but it was like crypto needs its iPhone moment. And we were just like passing it around in the company, just like laughing our heads off because it's like we don't even have a Palm Pilot moment. It's like we're like 386 PC moment, and it's like we can just keep going down, and it's because it's like we're so far removed from iPhone, and we're just trying to like get all of the building blocks and all the pieces in place so that we can do all the cool stuff that we imagined when we were starting our companies and stuff like that.
Yeah, I love it. I'm like blown away that basically no one's on their phone. You guys are doing good. Everyone really is enjoying this. Let's go to questions if anyone has questions.
Let's break it up between like the 1 to 4s and the 5 to 8s and see if we can get some curveballs. I know you guys in the back got curveballs for us.
We got a question here.
Where can I find more about what words surround Web3? it's just a fluffy, empty term that I've wondered if some people out there have been just using it for its buzz value, and the business they offer could easily be done with Web 2 without blockchain. So blockchain means something, crypto means something, and on your product, like yours, for example, if you put blockchain on there, that will tell someone that this is the kind of technology that makes this secure. Web 3, maybe that works for someone, but it says so little. It's friendly, but says less. So I want access to these polls.
Those polls equal competitive advantage, so people aren't sharing them. Woohoo! Because like not all Web3 is open source. Surprise. Now, I just shared all of the information I have, except for I learned that DAO does not poll well. So, but it polls a lot better after someone knows what it actually means. So, there's an education component too. And I will correct you. We do not use blockchain. We use Hashgraph. Better. I'm sorry, that's ridiculous. Jay, of course you can.
I just like to say it's like a lot of it is audience dependent. So when we were raising money, when we would get on the phone with an investor or someone, we would ask them kind of like probing questions to figure out like where they were. So it's like I would sometimes raise on the idea of digital collectibles. And my message was more tailored when they were like, they had no idea really what NFT was, what blockchain was, or all that kind of stuff. And so they're like, oh, well, we're doing digital collectibles. And if you think of it in terms of digital overtakes almost all physical things at some point. And it's like the digital collectibles make sense. Because it's like, hey, we're just doing baseball cards and action figures and wine, and we're doing all that just digitally. And we're making digital representations, and we'll be like YouTube, where we fill every niche. And pretty soon, there's an entire economy of creators that are like making their living off producing sets and filling all the possible niches. But then you would get someone like Standard Crypto or A16Z or something that are like really deep, and so it's like you can just go into the weeds. And you can use any terms, you can do, you can say anything you want, and you can really get into like the nitty gritty of like, well, exactly how are you going to do it? Oh, well, we're going to crawl Solana, and we're going to crawl, and you talk about the blockchains and all that kind of stuff. But you can bring it up or you can take it down depending on what, like where their comfort level of everything is. And I often say it's like the blockchain is actually really great for what it inspires more than for what it actually does. And so we try to be very, very inspired by it, but have to like realize its limitations and work around them and add infrastructure on top of it.
When you pitched me, you said you can buy internet pictures, I think is how you described it. So I think, yeah, that was about. Awesome, thanks. Who else has got a question? I'm gonna go here since he's closer, and just laziness.
I win by proximity. I'm Brad. We are launching a project this summer called Fever Dream Friends. It's going to be basically combining Web 2 and Web 3. And the question is, how do we simplify the minting process? It seems really hard to get someone who doesn't know about crypto, let alone to create a wallet, to then get into MetaMask, to then go to a minting site, to exchange it. So how can we, with Web3 technology, simplify the minting process?
Jay, question? Oh yeah, let's go.
Real quick. So pretty much like all of these rely on improving the permissions that developers can have on their wallets, which is like good luck getting MetaMask to change what they allow like random developers to do because they are security focused. Quickest way would be build a backend, create people's wallets for them, have them sign things, and have some other external account that you own that mints it.
She is right. That is the quickest way. Is to just basically own, vertically integrate, and just basically own the whole thing. The problem with that though is you can attract more new users, but it's harder to get existing NFT users. And a lot of times you want a mix of both, because it's like, if I don't have any way to get it into my wallet or to my identity or anything like that, and that's like I really want it, then I might not have interest in the project. The second thing about that is, depending on when you launch, it's like we might have tools for you. So let's talk after, because it's like it's like we're running a roadmap that's basically on how to make the entire minting, like the pre-mint, the mint, and the post-mint experience better. Because there's nothing worse than going to a random website, connecting your wallet, minting something, and then just having it say thanks. And then you basically, you like stare at it being like, holy crap. And then you go to OpenSea and you just like refresh OpenSea like a bunch of times to see if like something shows up in your account. And it's like the whole onboarding flow is just awful, especially if you're doing it outside. Now, okay, so there's an intermediate step, or intermediate, where it's like, if you do it on Ethereum, you have the higher gas fees, but all wallets basically support it. All wallets anyone's ever heard of, like MetaMask and Coinbase. It's easy to get money from Coinbase, which is like the easiest kind of way to like purchase crypto, to like the Coinbase wallet. And then it's easy to like buy something on Ethereum. You pay for that though. The gas fees are a lot higher and stuff like that. And so it's like you usually have to charge more. And all of those kind of things. So it's like we can talk more about it, because I don't want to bore people with like the nitty gritty details. But it's you can decide like where you want to be, and hopefully we will make this way easier for you in a couple months.
Anyone else closer before I get to my? No, I'm gonna get to him first, actually.
I think one of the reasons why Web3 probably pulls so well is because people have no idea what it is, right? And, it's like I talk to projects, or they'll approach us and they'll give us their vision on what Web3 is, what it is that they're building. And it really means something different to everybody else. And so, my question is, obviously Web3 has a decentralized component, which is very important, engaging with the community, giving people a voice, giving people more rights than what they currently have. But centralized entities also work really well, and that's why this world functions, is because you do need, okay, who is the decision maker, who is, in charge of this, who's leading the operation, all of that. And so my question is for you guys, what does Web3 mean to you, and what do you see the future, right? Because I think we're at the tip of the iceberg. It's being developed. Nobody knows exactly where the end of the road is going to be, especially with regulations coming. But what are you guys doing to prepare for incoming regulations, or kind of, get away from, hey, this NFT is going to be the US government that controls this in country, but actually use that technology to engage with communities in a more impactful way online?
So question one is the simplest questions are the hardest ones, right? What is Web3 to you guys? And then what's question two?
And just what are you guys doing to prepare in a landscape where there's a lot of regulatory unknowns?
I'm feeling like I'm talking a lot. There we go. Just like I can't stand the silence, so it's like I just have to say something. So in many ways, history is written by the winner. Web 2. So my first company was like in the prime of Web 2. And it's like we were it's like it was a Web 2 company. It had an open API. It like interacted. It like pulled in a lot of services from other people, because like Web 2 was interoperability. And it was it's like everyone had an API, like a relatively open API that you could do all kinds of crazy stuff with, and you could mix and match, and you could bring stuff together. When people talk about Web 2 now, they're like, oh yeah, Twitter and Facebook, and they're like closed ecosystems that have just taken over the internet and all that kind of stuff. So it's like that wasn't what Web 2 was, and it's just like that's what it became. And there was a lot of people, it's like O'Reilly wrote a blog post. It's like, this is what Web 2.0 is, and it's like, yeah, sure, whatever. But people were forming it at that time, and it became the thing that it became. And I imagine, just because I don't like to bet against, there's a reason why we end up with like the same infrastructure and do the same thing like over and over and over again, is I don't want to bet against like that kind of stuff. So it's like Web3 is kind of, in my mind, it's very similar to like what Web2 was back in the day. People were throwing stuff against the wall, trying to see what fits, or trying to see what sticks. And see like what captures the imagination, and like different people are trying to just like randomly different like small projects and trying to put them all together, and they're interoperating with each other and stuff like that. And it's like, I don't know what it will look like in 3 to 5 years. I mean, I'll be honest, it's like we think of things in terms of a very centralized approach. Like we want to become the place that you bring all your NFTs, all your digital collectibles, in the same way that YouTube is basically the place where like most people upload videos. But there are videos all around, and you can take your YouTube and you can embed it in other places, and you can, you know, share it on email and stuff like that. And it's like, I imagine, just simply because I'm not that imaginative, that digital collectibles can seem very, very much like that. Just one final thing is Web3, I don't know if it polls well because people don't know what it means, because metaverse actually polls really badly, and people don't know what that means either. So,
so yeah, what does Web3 mean to me, and what was the other one?
And what are you doing about it?
And what am I doing about it?
What is your guys' approach? What future are you trying to create?
Sure. So I guess for me, it's Web3 has always been about giving people the means to participate. While I do agree that eventually it will probably like turn into a bunch of people or like centralized organizations working on top of these decentralized protocols or something like that, and it progressively gets more and more centralized. I think building the foundation where you have the ability to not only participate, but ideally like have the right of exit is really, really important. So that's like kind of where we ground our thinking in that. And you know, when you're talking about like building I think there are actually very few things that are really important to make decentralized, but one of them is like the infrastructure that runs this. So we think it's really important, but thinking about how this, like the protocol upgrades will happen when we move to a more decentralized decision-making structure is like anxiety fueling nightmares. It's not gonna work efficiently, and that's like a feature, not a bug.
Yeah. Oh man. So I mean, you can hear a lot of people trying to find like Web3, right? And like, I guarantee that if you Google it, you'll get the Web 1 read, Web 2 read write, Web 3 read write own answer, right? And although I don't disagree or necessarily agree with that, I think I take a similar approach in that we don't know what Web3 is. We're building it, right? I think about it in patterns, right? And to be honest, the internet has followed probably the oldest human pattern in existence. We started with Web 1, which was true anarchy. It was tribalism, and it was people all off in their own little spaces doing their own little things. And then all of a sudden we have digital feudalism, which is Web 2. Right, where we are now all controlled. Then I don't want to get to what's going on outside. Party? Oh, that's too bad. So anyways, digital feudalism. Like we don't have control of our data. We don't have control over the value that we create. Like we have zero control over anything, right? And so, what do I think Web3 is? I don't know. Maybe it's democracy. Right, and talking decentralization versus centralization, like in comparison to what we had before, the United States and democracy is a decentralized, autonomous organization, right? Like if you compare that to feudalism and monarchies, right? So what is it going to look like? At what level on the scale of decentralized to centralized is it going to be? I don't know. I think our goal is just we fight digital feudalism, and that's all that matters. So Web3 is fighting. That's what it is. So.
Yeah, do I need a mic?
Yeah.
Oh, I love mics. I'm not quite sure how to phrase this, but I guess I'm wondering, within each of your organizations, how do you balance educating new users, or are you focusing more on utility and hoping that people care enough to learn on their own? How do you know when to put more emphasis in educating the guy at the gas station to know what you're doing and to take advantage of it?
Shoot, I'm always first. We we actually think a lot about onboarding. It's like even when we originally pitched, we were like we care about the current million people. It was 600,000 NFT owners at the time. That's like the size of OpenSea. But it's like now it's about 1 million. It's like we care about the current million, but we're more concerned about the next 10 and the 100 after that. And so we want to make all of these things easier. It's like I would often tell a story about, I remember I was working at a company called Path in 2013, and Dave Morin, who's he's co-founder of Path. He was a really early person on Facebook. And he sat me down and he said, Jay, you need to buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin was about $89 a token at the time. And he's like, you need to go buy it. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. I'm a programmer. I'm relatively savvy. This is right up my alley. It's like, I'm going to do this thing. And I get home and I like do some research and find out it's actually really difficult to buy Bitcoin in 2013. And so it's like I spend, the hour that I'd allotted or the 2 hours or whatever, and it's like I don't purchase it. I never make it that far. So I'm like, well, I'll pick this up tomorrow. And tomorrow comes along and I spend a little bit more time and I still don't quite make it. And so I end up not purchasing, eventually it peters out and I end up not purchasing Bitcoin until Coinbase. Coinbase launches, like they're kind of the product that we all know now, where it's like I basically can sign up, I can link my bank account really easy instead of like sending a wire transfer to like some random Cayman Island corporation. And it's like all of a sudden I've connected my bank account and it's like they do the 2 cent and the 3 cent transaction. And a day later I go in and say, you sent me 2 cents and 3 cents, and it connects my bank account. And now all of a sudden I can buy Bitcoin. And so in like 2015, I buy Bitcoin. And it's like, it's way easier than it was like a couple years later. And it's like, that's kind of how I think of it. It's like, and Coinbase is now the largest, by customers, the largest crypto like company. And so it's like they focus not on the current people, because like my brother-in-law who started buying when Bitcoin was $1 and like started getting them and doing all these kind of things, and he did use like all the really random corporations and everything. And it was like he was part of Mt. Gox and he was part of like all of those kind of things. He couldn't stand Coinbase. He still doesn't have a Coinbase account and still does everything manually and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, that's not me. I want to do things. I want things to be easy. And so I think of it in terms of that. It's like how to make it easy, and then how to also make it like right onboarding. I think we've actually even talked with you about like doing like tutorials and like onboarding people and all of that kind of stuff, because it's like we want to be a kind of a central repository for this knowledge and to help as many people as possible. So when we're thinking about like pre-minting and minting and getting people like to start their NFT journey, we're thinking about it in terms of like, well, it'd be great because we can control all the documentation, and so it's like you can just focus on your project. And it's like if they have trouble connecting their wallet, they can use us. And it's like we have all the tutorials, and it's like we see enough like flow coming through that we can like continually add and update the tutorials and make them easier. So it's like we can answer all the questions, and we can have the support structure for you so that you can launch the project instead of right now, like most NFT collections usually involve about 5 to 10 people. And it's like we want to get that down to one person. So like it's like, hey, I'm an artist, I'm a creator, I want to launch a project, and it's like Bodega has all the tools that I need, and it's like we're your support structure, we're the other 5 to 10 people.
Yeah, so we focus a lot on user education because if the whole thing were just about convenience and utility, people would use multi-sig bridges, which are like not secure. So we focus a lot on it. Also, I think every company in this space, if they want to have like a shot at longevity, really needs to focus on user education, because just the numbers of how fast the space grows. Excuse me. Yeah. I don't think crypto as it currently stands is at all built for the average user, like just someone off the street who want to like get an NFT to go to this conference. Like that's really hard. Every conference that I've been to that has tried to set something like that up ends up like having some jerry-rigged way, and the vendors just like eventually give up. They're like, I've been paid for this. Take whatever 2 entrees you want. I don't need to see your stupid Buffacorn token or whatever it is.
Somebody went to ETH Denver. I just learned we're filming this, I guess. So microphone's important, I guess, Trent. I mean, it's not my problem. I'm just kidding. It's like, for us, things are, again, different. Because if you can't transfer your assets, you don't need a like self-custody wallet. Because it really doesn't matter as much. The more important piece of what we're doing is that your data and the fact that you did something that means that you deserve ownership is written immutably to the chain, and no one can change that, and you get the value that you created, right? But in the end, like that's a deeper question. I don't think any of us are actually trying to teach and educate people on right now, because it's just about adoption, right? And like those are the sorts of idealistic things that you just learn later, honestly. And I mean, you know, we talk a lot about this in the space, like, you know, how do we make sure people understand what's going on? How do we make the user experience really great? And it's like, to be honest, if you're not in tech, how much do you know about how Web 2 works? Most people don't know very much either. So, you know, there's a lot that you don't actually have to know. Question.
Are you guys structured as a DAO? And you know, if you are, what struggles do you have with that, or are you trying to innovate in there in any way?
Not structured as a DAO.
No for Upsidedown? The answer is no, yeah. A DAO is an ethereal concept, and it is difficult to ascertain what actually we all want to define as a DAO. Because for the most part, DAO means Discord right now. If there's a Discord server with people talking about things and they have plans to be a DAO, it's a DAO, right? And so the broader question is, how do you actually structure later, right? Do you do an UNA, right, a nonprofit vehicle? Do you use a cooperative? Do you go offshore? Do you do this, or do you just not? Do you remain unincorporated and likely get classified as a general partnership in the United States and probably go to jail? You know, there are like a lot of options. So, I mean, the answer to how you actually structure as a DAO is a difficult question that a lot of people are trying to answer right now. I mean, you want to know a lot more detail? We can talk later, but. Community involvement. How does the community work? So our community is brands, right? Our community, we are a community of communities, I guess I would call it. And so, you know, how does community work for us? It's a little different. You know, how does it work for the end user? Which, you know, as we are still not launched, we don't have the end user yet. But I guess the answer is there's nothing going on right now. We don't have end users, so there is no community yet. But there will be. And how will it work? I don't know. Do you need to know how it's going to work? Not really. That's the spirit of a DAO, is like you have no idea what's going on, and you're just going to go for it. I work with a lot of DAOs, and I know how those communities work, and the answer to how those work is varied. Some of them work really well, and some of them don't, like, at all. In fact, they die a slow, painful death because everyone just stops talking to each other. So it's a wild question. Happy to expound upon that later.
I'm going to wax poetic here for a little bit. One of the things I really like about Upside Down is, like, when we were raising our money and we got our term sheet, and I was talking with our partner that we were working with, I wanted to have a, like, community or employee representative on the board. And so he put it in the term sheet. He's like, oh, I love that idea. And, like, put it in the term sheet. And then it's like, we gave it to our counsel, and our lawyer is like, what the heck is this? Like, what are they trying to do? And it's like, we pulled it out because it's like, we're just not at that size yet. But my vision for our company is we will eventually carve off some percentage of the company and put it into an SPV that will have a DAO that kind of allows the community to organize and elect a representative that will then sit on our board. But the company is owned by us and our employees and our investors, and the community will have some portion of that, but it won't be the entire company. It's still like, like all roads ultimately like end with me and the board. And I like that because I'm very much me and my co-founders are very vision oriented. It's like, we have a future that we want to exist, and we want to make that happen. And it's like, you almost have to will it into existence, especially in a space that's so nascent and so small. And so it's like, we have to be able to make those decisions and do those kind of things. I will say it's kind of the difference. I know this is going to be kind of weird. It's like the difference between the MCU and, like, the DC, like, cinematic universe. Like, the MCU has Kevin Feige, and he runs the entire thing with, like, an iron fist. Like, he is the producer. If you look at every credit, he is a producer on every single Marvel Cinematic Universe, like, show, movie, tie-in, everything. The DC universe is just like, yeah, we'll try this guy, and then nothing happens, and so they get a new guy, and then that guy, or that man or woman, like, tries something, and like, nothing happens, and then they get another person, and they're not nearly as successful or cohesive over time because they don't have the person, the person leading it all the way. The same thing we said, actually, if we just want to keep it in the Disney family, Star Wars, which, like, they just let different people try different things, and it's not nearly as cohesive as the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And so I'm very much of the Kevin Feige, and I hope I'm saying his name right, but it's like, I'm very much of, like, that, like, portion where it's like, there's a person that has the vision and, like, works to make that happen. And DAOs a lot of times do not have that kind of representation and that kind of.
The good ones do. Go to Seed Club, check out all the DAOs going through that. Like, they do have leadership, right? It's a change in how you take that leadership position as a steward rather than a CEO or something like that, right? Like, it's a lot of it's framing internally as well as how you treat the community around you. Because you're right, like, flat architecture or flat hierarchies do not work, like, to build products.
I read a thing on holacracy at Zappos once, and I was like the entire time I was reading it, I was like, this is hell. Like, I couldn't even imagine, like, working in this environment.
I mean, I think an important thing to keep in mind when you're talking about DAOs is DAOs are fundamentally just a way for a group of people to coordinate a group of resources. And that, like, the advantage that a DAO has over, like, a representative democracy that we have here in the United States is that a DAO can allow you to have those votes happen instantly, and you can exit and, like, enter the governance for this pool of resources instantly. But that's not, like, the core problem of what exists when, like, in the problem set when you're trying to govern resources. Like, it's an important tool that could have some unique benefits and allow us to run some unique experiments that previously would have required too much overhead. But it's not like a panacea to community-driven governance.
I would just say, yeah, governance, we didn't talk about that yet very much, but, like, that's the piece that honestly, if you follow the thought leaders in the space right now, like it's not democratic rule governance, right? Like the whole thing right now, and like honestly, the term DAO, which decentralized autonomous organization, like none of them are decentralized or autonomous. They're just organizations. We're just using that term for a lot of what's happening in the space, and like I'm not afraid to lie about it. Like that's wait, they're not actually DAOs like Vitalik wrote in 2015 about. What they are is a more fair distribution of ownership for a community. Whether or not that's value-based ownership, whether or not that's decision-based ownership, it's about running experiments, like Layne said. But it's an experiment in being better, right, and doing something that both is organizationally efficient, which we're learning very quickly, like flat hierarchies are not, so don't do it. Do pod-based governance, sub-DAO-based governance, things like that. But like, I don't know. There's, you guys should have gone to the DAO panel.
Yeah, I mean, the problems have existed since human beings have had fire, and like a blockchain didn't fix it.
Yeah, that's like I often it's like I sometimes marvel that we can get anything done.
Right.
As like humans.
Awesome. Last question. Who wants to be our last question of the day? Who has like the best, most mind-blowing question to ask? Just kidding. No pressure like that. Just any who has the dumbest question?
Just as I went. I bought it just as I went, and I've actually never sold. So I'm the very definition. I'm actually a terrible NFT collector also, because yesterday was my first time I ever sold an NFT, and I choose ones, and I'm like, I love this one. I want to own it forever, and then I buy it, and I've since owned them forever. But I'm the same with Bitcoin. I've never sold it. I have converted most of my Ethereum that I bought like early on in like 2015, 16, 17 to NFTs. So it's like I'm down to actually the end of my Ethereum. But now I buy every day, up or down, using Robinhood actually. So it's not custodial, but it is free. Previously I did it on Coinbase, and you have to pay a fee, and so I would only do it every couple weeks.
Yeah, I feel like we've had a few downers here. We've got the onboarding process, which is a UX nightmare, a challenge that is beyond. I'm a UX guy. It's really beyond my grasp. I want everything, all the information I can get to solve it. It's a tough one. You've all acknowledged that. But that's what we need to have our dreams of the blockchain future fulfilled. DAOs, they're an illusion, they're a deception, they're a failure. Tell us what part of blockchain and crypto are a beautiful future, a success, something we can hope in. DAOs. DAO.
You can hope in DAOs.
Okay, tell us how. How do we get there?
Seed Club. You should go, seedclub.xyz. No, Seed Club. Seed. Plant. Seed. Yes. I mean, follow Jess Sloss on Twitter. Get involved, because DAOs, there is a lot of a lot of power in. I think that the one thing that we've glossed over is that the funny thing that DAOs can't do is manage resources, right? But the one thing that corporations generally can't do very well is manage the human resources. Like like that is what DAOs do incredibly well, is they get people doing things, right? It's not coordinated and it falls apart pretty easily often, but we're figuring that piece out. The difference is that like you can, on a massive scale, with a lot of different people from very different backgrounds and with very different technical expertise, come together and actually start making something quite incredible that did not exist and could not have existed before. There is some amazing things happening in DAOs. They're just inefficient right now. We're going to figure that out though, which is, you know, why Upsidedown, we take the position of making, like, taking what you know, a DAO is and just taking what works right now and letting everybody else figure out the rest of it later, because it's a difficult question.
I have some thoughts, or do I have to? Okay, I just yeah. I like now I'm all flustered, but it's like I would say it's like one of the people we work with is based in Russia. We had no problem paying them up until February, like using traditional things like PayPal and all kinds of different ways until about February 2022, and then all of a sudden we couldn't pay him. And one of the promises of the blockchain is you don't have borders, and that is proved true. We now pay him through Bitcoin. And so it's like that is like one of the real benefits. Likewise, it's a lot of people make fun of digital collectibles and NFTs and say it's like, well, I'm waiting for the utility to come. I'm waiting until like, you know, my car title and my house deed and everything is on there, and like that's when they'll be you know, impressive to me, or that's when they'll solve real problems. But enabling, like bringing down and creating a middle class of artists and creators that can make their living off of, you know, like doing their art and producing like the thing, you know, producing their creations and selling it, it's a big deal. And NFTs allow that to happen. And it's like we're just at the very beginning. You know, it's like we're the first couple videos of YouTube being uploaded. It's like there's going to be, I imagine a future where there's an entire middle class, much the way Instagram gave us influencers, YouTube gave us videographers. There will be a middle class of NFT creators that will produce for a large population of collectors that collect these things and provide them community and everything else. And so those are two kind of utopian things.
Love it. We're going to wrap up there because speaking of NFTs, there's giveaways happening in the main stage right now, so we're going to wrap up here. But let's have a hand for our panelists here. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, go ahead and head over there. Main stage.